Today how I made this card and a couple others using the Altenew Tulip layering die set. I love their layering die sets. And I made it in the mini Slimline size, which is so popular right now, using some Tailored Expressions bifold cards that I bought. Love using those cards because they're pre-folded, pre-cut, and I don't waste any excess paper that might be around the edges when I make them myself. So here we're gonna get down to it, and I'm gonna show you how the sets layer together. Now it comes with us, that's all the dies, and then it comes with this layering sheet. Sorry, it's kind of sped up, it's hard to see there, but it shows you how to make 2 different leaves and 3 different flowers. So those are the 2 flowers and those are the 2 leaves. Now I modify those leaves a bit in this, but that is what they look like if you cut and make them completely the way that they are meant to be. So for this video, I'm using the newish Altenew double-sided adhesive, sheets, which I think are wonderful. I usually have so much trouble getting double-sided sheets, the adhesive to come off the back, and these are fantastic. They're a little thicker, they're so much easier to get apart, and I love them. At some point in the video, and I think I probably edited out, but I had some of the older, thinner stuff that I had from another company on the back of one of these, and I struggled and struggled and struggled to get it off, so I was really thrilled. Now for the stems of my tulips, I am going to use these strip dies from the Stamp Market. Actually, they're an 1/8 inch wide. And when I think of tulips, I think of them as standing straight up and tall. So I wanted to use the leaves that are in the Altenew set, but I wanted to make some tall stems, and I thought the best way I could do that was with some strip dies that you use to make background strips on cards. So I ran all these bits and pieces through my Gemini Junior to get them all out, and those are the strips right there, and then these are the leaves. And you can see, because I was going to cut the stem of that biggest leaf off, that I just kind of put it to the edge of my card to save space, or to the edge of my cardstock to save space. And you can see it's got this little bitty nothing stem on the bottom there, and that's because I'm going to cut that off later. I layered with 2 different colored greens and 3 different colored pinks, and I promise I will put the descriptions below. A lot of it might have been scrap, so hopefully I can give you at least a good solid guess on what I used. I use a lot of Stampin' Up cardstock because a friend of mine sells Stamping Up, but I also have my favorite things and some Simon and some Lawn Fawn cardstock, so I will make sure to try to tell you in the description below what color I used for that. The description on my blog, pardon me, if you're watching this on YouTube. Now these I find are super easy to put together. The leaves line up really nicely. The only thing I do is, because my fingernails get away a little bit, is use a pick to line things up, but any struggles you see are really just mine, not because the dies are easy or are difficult to line up at all. I think there's little notches and grooves and such that they've made that show you really well how the dies all line up together. Like there's a notch there that you line up with another one, and then the tip of that one petal lines up with the tip of the background color petal, and it is very, very easy to see with the guide and with the dies in your hand where everything lines up so nicely. I find it easier to line these up than I sometimes find stamping layering sets. These just are so easy, and you can see how well that Altenew adhesive, double-sided adhesive, is coming off the back of these little pieces too, because sometimes those are really difficult to get off. Now this was a tiny little thing, and it goes up there, and it's easy to put in place. I use my pick to line everything up, and there's that little little fussy die cut, lines up with the tip on the left side and the tip of that third petal over from the left, and then that last one lines up too, and it's very simple to put together. So, using 3 different colors of paper, you end up having this absolutely gorgeous tulip in the end. Now this little one has that little scrap that you just kind of saw me put to the side over there by the die. It comes out, and it is another detail to add to that flower, but I find it so hard to put on. It's so tiny that I just left it off in the end. If I wasn't on camera, I might have tried to fuss with it a little bit, but it is hard to get in place. And I don't think it detracts from it in the end that little tiny petal or shading is left off of the end result of the tulip. So this is the stems, and then this is how I'm going to kind of line up the leaves on the stems so they cover that part, and that's what I'm going to want them to look like. Now, pardon me for the jump there in the camera. I'm going to show you all the different colors here I made 2 different colors of yellow. I made some coral ones in a couple different colors. I even made a white one using a very, very light gray as my base, and then 2 colors of white that were different shades of white, and so I thought they looked really nice in the end. These are those bifold cards. I'm going to get everything out of the way, and I'm going to use some paint on the back of those to provide some interest, since these are really simple cards in the end. I like using a box, the pizza box. Lawn Fawn sends their stamps in as a splatter box. I think it really easy to keep my mess contained in these. So these are the Gansai Tambi metallic watercolors, and I'm using both the red gold color and maybe the champagne gold color for my background, combining both colors, splattering that around and getting a nice coverage. And I will take a heat tool to these and get them all dried off in the end for assembly. It's me off to the side using the heat tool, which you can't see, pardon me. And then this is me just trying to figure out how exactly I wanted to assemble. I misplaced one of my tulips that matched the other 3 tulips. I probably can't really tell in camera, but there's a color difference between some of these these pink tulips, and I just could not find the third one that matched, and I was going crazy. I may have edited that out of my camera, edited out of the video, but I was going nuts at the time. So there is my first largest tulip lined up on the stem, and for the stems I've got that double-sided adhesive on it. Makes it real easy to glue down that thin strip. Yeah, here I am. I'm trying to find that third tulip that matches. I was going crazy. I think I found it on the floor in the end. But there we go, those 3 I was looking for. Pardon me for the camera shake when I sit back down at my desk. And then for 2 of the tulips, I'm gluing them down flat to the paper, taking the adhesive back off of that second stem. And then for the third, I use a little bit of foam squares to pop it up. It needed some dimension to, I don't know that flat glue would have held it down very well, because there's so many layers of paper there underneath it. So I didn't pop up the third stem. I considered layering it with some white. I apologize if you can hear my dog barking downstairs. I considered laying like 3 strips of white underneath it and doing it, but I thought nobody in the end would notice but me. So here I'm taking the stem and cutting just a little bit off of it so that I can layer it over that strip for the leaf. I'm sorry, I cut a little bit off of the leaf so I could layer it over the stem that I cut from those strip dies. And I'm playing around with the placement. I really like how that looks because it really does remind me of how tulip looks in the yard in the spring. Put a little foam dot on the back of one portion of that to stick it up a little bit, and then some glue on the other end. And then I was trying to decide how to do some leaves on the ones on the other side. Couldn't quite decide, and I ended up opting to cut off again a little bit of that leaf as it is on the die. Sorry, my hands, I pull my hands out of camera, but I cut off the bottom of that stem to get it looking more like what I wanted. So don't be afraid to modify to get the look you're going for. And then that little bit that I cut off, I thought made a nice little stem on that third one. Just a little bitty stem, or I'm sorry, I keep saying stem when I mean leaf. A little bitty leaf on the stem. And then I glued that end down, and that's pretty much it for the cards. I show you what I did for greeting. Cut off the excess here on the stems. Now originally I was going to put a sentiment strip across the bottom, and so I'll show part of that. I was using a old orchid, a stamp set from Altenew. I liked one of the greetings. I can't remember what it says anymore, and I was going to put that across the bottom, and it doesn't look bad, but for some reason I wasn't real excited about it. Decided that it just wasn't quite popping enough for me, and in the end got out, I kept going back and looking at it, putting it aside. In the end, I got out the Altenew Water Brush Hello die, and I cut out a few white ones to stack behind a colored one, and on each of the cards I chose the color that I used on the darkest portion of the tulip to be the part I layered over those white dies. So that's the darkest purple in my tulip and the darkest purple on that hello. And I promise I'll make sure to put all the colors down below. This was a yellow version that I did. And then I will show you, like I did the coral and the pink. I was really happy with how they turned out in the end. Sort of a toss-up for me whether I like the pink or the coral the best. But this is my finished card, and I hope that my description was good enough that you can remake if you want to. If you have any questions, please ask me in the comments below, and I will be happy to try to answer. And I will make sure to put all my card combinations, color combinations below as well. Thank you again for watching, and have a nice day.